Welcome to this new mPulse UI deep dive. In this video, we will take a look at multi-series chart series positioning. This feature allows you to fine-tune how your multi-series data presents itself in area and bar charts. Let's take a look at these options now. So in this dashboard, we've put together a number of examples of series positioning and how it can be used to fine-tune how your data is actually displayed in your charts. It's important to understand that series positioning is only a feature on area charts. You can see these two area charts side by side, and they're using two different options for series positioning. And it also is a feature of bar charts. It's not a feature of line charts, and the reason for that is series positioning is basically how you choose how multiple series are going to present next to each other, how they're going to stack on top of each other, and so on. And with line charts, it's very hard to tell that it's actually stacked on top of each other or overlaid. So we basically made the decision that series positioning didn't really make any sense for line charts. So let's take a look at this area chart here. We'll go to the options and edit it. And you can see that it's a multi-series chart. That means that there is multiple data to display. Now, when you have multiple data to display and it's an area, you can choose how to display that in a number of different ways. And this is where the series positioning option comes into play. This series positioning option wouldn't actually be here if this was a single series area chart. It just wouldn't be there. So that's something to be aware of. If you're missing this option, you need to make the chart into a multi-series chart by adding more timers or metrics to the YPad. And when you do, then this option appears. There are three options. The areas are overlaid, they're stacked on top of each other, or they're percentage stacked. For an area chart, the default is actually stacked, and that's what you can see here. So what actually happens is that the range for one of the series is added to the range of another series, and they all add up together to produce a composite axis. So in other words, this particular, what's this, page load? Page load only actually goes up to, let's see, about 4 seconds. So if page load was shown on its own, it would only go up to 4 seconds here on the y-axis. But because we've stacked together several other timers, we've got a maximal value up here of about, it's over 10 seconds, and that's why the y-axis is actually showing all the way up to 12 seconds. It's because when these values are all stacked together, you have to increase the size of the y-axis to allow you to show all the values. Stacking is really useful when you want to see the combination of timers and the total value that that gives you. So in some cases, you may find you have a timer such as page load that is made up of many other timers. And if you want to, you can actually create a stacked area chart or bar chart, and then you can actually see the combination of all of those different timers together and how they make up the total time for page load. That's a good example of why you'd want to use stacked. Overlaid is, to be honest, not that useful. You can see it here. What overlay does, it actually takes the areas and it just lets them overlay on top of each other. So you can see now the y-axis has dropped down in size because the maximum value now is 4. We've just got a little bit of extra padding here. So it goes up to 4.5 seconds. It's not that useful. We've included it for completion's sake. There may be certain circumstances where you find it's useful, but generally, because the areas overlay each other, it's not particularly useful. And because of that, that's why we've used stacked as the default when you have multi-series in an area chart. Then you have percentage stacked. So what happens here is we take the values and we create a y-axis and we normalize those values so they add up in total to 100% of the range. And what this gives you is a pure proportional display of the makeup of that range. So you can see, for instance, here that page load is making up something like 30% of the total. You can see that front end time is taking up a very small percentage. DOM ready again is taking up maybe a little bit over 30%, something like that. And DOM load again, somewhere around 30%. So percentage stacked is very useful again when you want to see the proportions of all of your values which are stacked. And as I said, when you do that, this axis becomes a percentage axis and then everything is normalized to fill that range. So yeah, very useful feature in certain circumstances. Let's put it back to stacked, and now let's go and have a look at the bar chart. Go back to our dashboard, just wait for it to render. We'll take a look at this. You can see actually this area chart over here is actually set up to be percentage stacked. So let's go into the bar chart. Now for a bar chart, you have a slightly different first option. In this case, we've chosen it to be the default. So what happens with bar charts is when you have multi-series, the series all get grouped together at one point in time. So you can see in this time period, you've got the page load, front end time, and DOM ready, and they're side by side. And you can see that page load and DOM ready are actually, in most cases, pretty much equal. Not always, but in most cases. And you can see that front end time is quite a lot smaller in terms of duration. Yeah, so you've got these little groups. Every time you add another series, this group will get bigger, and that means that the bars will get thinner. Our charting system will do that automatically. And the reason why you're seeing gaps here is because we actually don't have some values in the data for these points in time. Then you've got stacked, which is basically exactly the same in the area, except that instead of showing the stacking as areas stacked on top of each other, we're showing it using bars stacked on top of each other. They're actually very similar, very equivalent. So really you can use stacked areas or stacked bar charts pretty interchangeably. And then we have percentage stacked, which is exactly the same in the area chart again. It might make it a little bit easier to read in a bar chart when it's percentage stacked because you have these flat tops. But again, conceptually, it's exactly the same idea as in an area chart. So yeah, you can choose whether you want to do your stacking in an area chart or a bar chart, and it's up to you really which of those two convey the information most clearly to you. You can see from this, I hope you can understand why line charts don't have this concept of stacking, because if you did these lines stacked on top of each other, you wouldn't necessarily intuit that there's any stacking going on because there's no fill color for the line. You might just think that the lines are actually just sitting where they are in a normal multi-series line chart. So yeah, it would be confusing. That's why we don't do stacking and percentage stacking in line charts. And the final one that I'll show is a combo chart. So let's go and edit that. And you can see here we've got two series in the background set up as an area, and we've got two series in the foreground set up as a bar. In each case, we've got the actual appropriate series positioning for that type of chart. So if you remember, area charts have a first option, which is overlaid, and bar charts have a first option, which is grouped. If you were to change these visualizations, if you would change this to bar and you were to change this to area, these two sets of options would swap around because you're always going to be given the correct option for the chart type that you're using in one of the layers in your combo chart. Apart from that, it's exactly the same as when it's just a single area chart or bar chart. There's no difference whatsoever. It's up to you to decide exactly how you want to display things. So for instance, we could choose our bars to be grouped. And if we wanted to, we could show our area to be percentage stacked. If that made a chart that was useful to you, then those options are there for you to do that. So yeah, series positioning, something you really do have to have when you start doing multi-series for area and bar. It's a feature that really presents itself. You need to decide exactly how your data is going to either stack or overlay or group. You have to make a choice about that. And that choice is there for you to make.